Thank you very much, and good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great pleasure to be here. My thanks to AFIDA and to Anna and Maria in particular for inviting me. As my colleague here was saying, we're part of UBM, which is very much a global business now. Our turnover is about £1 billion sterling, and we work in about 70 different sectors in about 40 different countries. So, we're very lucky to have a very large infrastructure around the world. So if we do want to develop events in any territory, pretty much, we've got the opportunity to do that. So I'm aware, for a start, that I'm very privileged in being able to do that. Having said that, as you were saying, I'm a bit of a newcomer, really, because my background was very much in publishing. I don't know if you noticed, but our business got eaten by the internet about 4 years ago. So we had to very much rapidly change the business from a publishing-oriented business to one that's driven by events. And 4 years ago, the division that I run, which is, as you were saying, which is in the built environment, in property, in construction, and interior design, 4 years ago, only 14% of our business was events, and it's now 2/3. Conversely, the publishing element of the business is now has gone from about 55% down to about 13%. So very, very different kind of business that we have. And in terms of driving growth, well, a lot of our business has been in the UK, and that is struggling as a market in the same way that a lot of European markets are struggling. So, we had no choice, really, but to try to internationalise the business. And we did that through a combination of acquisition. We bought an event in São Paulo called the Concrete Show, which is the biggest and most successful event of its kind in Brazil. And we also bought a show based in the UK called EcoBuild, which is the world's biggest sustainable construction event. And those are our two main brands that we decided to internationalise. And I have to say, it's been a real steep learning curve for me coming into this. The lucky thing I have got is some colleagues who really understand how to do it, but I'm learning all the time. So what I say here is not something that I'm talking from sort of years of wisdom, and I'm giving you the sort of benefit of a huge number of sort of war stories. What I'm doing is telling you my sort of early experiences of it as someone who's had to, out of necessity, get to grips with the challenges of taking events around the world. And I have to say, at the outset, it's been a lot harder than I thought. One of the things that we looked at when we started to develop our events was that the phrase that everyone used was geo-cloning. That was the phrase. So in other words, taking an event in one place and pretty much replicating it in another. And we soon realised that that itself was a bad... Slower. Okay, sorry. So apologies if you're to the translators if they're struggling to pick up my loquacious nonsense. So we had a phrase, geo-cloning. That was the phrase that we used to describe how we took an event from one place to another. But that really didn't describe what we were actually doing, and it was quite a dangerous thing because it smacked of arrogance. It sounded as if we were, just going to look at... We had a successful event in the UK, and we was going to take it and put it in China or India or Brazil or wherever. So what we use is a phrase called geo-adaptation, which means that the events that we take from one place to another have to be right for that other market. And so our starting point is that the only thing we're transferring really is the brand, and everything else has to be justified. So what we do is, what everyone does with every event, we start from first principles. We say, what right have we got to play in this other market? So, for example, in taking EcoBuild from the UK to China, as we did earlier this year, we had to decide, why would the Chinese market want an event on sustainable construction? And we spent a huge amount of work looking at the way that market was moving. It's very early. Is it the right time? Because it's very easy, I think, for us to be too early as much as being too late. We had to look at the risks. One of the risks in China, as you know, for example, is that there isn't a huge respect right now for intellectual property. We had a show that my colleagues launched in China based on a big, successful American event called Game Developer, all for the gaming industry. We took it to China, launched Game Developer China, and then within a couple of months, someone else launched China Game Developer. And they're very much the same event. And I think the conclusion we had was that you've just got to get used to that. That is just how it is. And actually, both events are now flourishing because China is such a big market that, you know, there is room for an enormous amount. But I think we learnt not to be too upset when those sort of things happened, and also to realise that competition is actually really good. We all worry about going into a new market and it being crowded, which can be the case. But actually, the way we look at it now is that competition makes the market as much as puts you off. So lots of work to be done up front. I think the second thing is that you really need to be committed to make it work. There is a danger that you see these events as a spin-off, and therefore you put not your best people on it. And the problem with that is that, A, it's the really difficult thing to do, so you need really good people, but also your partners will see that you haven't got your best people on it, and they will think that you are not committed. So you need a local team on the ground. You need real buy-in from the local team that you have there to make it work. And one of the things that we have learned is to draw up business plans together, not to give the team based locally a plan and say, there it is, you follow that. Guess what their reaction is to that? And I won't do the one-fingered gesture, but you can sort of see what happens. You also need to really work hard to explain what the essence of the brand is that you are taking. And that takes a long time. You know, it's very arrogant to think that people will instinctively understand a show like EcoBuild, which is grown up very much a UK show, or the concrete show in Brazil, which is very much a Latin American event. Why would someone in Jakarta understand a Brazilian concrete event? It needs a lot of work. And the first geo-adaptation we did, I have to tell you, was a complete disaster. We took a UK event in the education sector to the Middle East, and we made every mistake that you can make. The brand didn't translate to the Middle Eastern market, so we got the wrong name. We put the wrong person in charge. It was someone who understood the brand in the UK, but had never worked abroad at all. We then fell out with our local team, so that was mistake number 3. We didn't get a proper local partner. We didn't either a government body or a trade association, and we didn't put enough money in it. So therefore, the show was underinvested, and it limped on for 3 years. Didn't make any money, and we closed it last year. When we did the review of it, we really had to sort of think, what had gone wrong. And actually, with hindsight, that failure has been really helpful to us because we have learned a huge amount about what not to do, and that is now helping us with shows like EcoBuild and Concrete. Do you want to carry on, or do you want to open up to questions and more discussion?
Se calhar eu não sei se algum dos participantes quer fazer alguma pergunta, uma vez que se pretende que esta seja uma sessão informal e, portanto, que haja mais diálogo entre a plateia e as pessoas que estão aqui para partilhar as suas experiências. Alguma pergunta neste momento? Parece que não.
Yeah.
Good morning. My name is Danilo Bernal from the US. I would like to know if you have had any experience in the Latin American market, specifically in countries outside of Brazil, with shows that you have bought or something.
Not specifically, no. I mean, Brazil is the first place that we've moved into, and a lot of our focus has actually been otherwise on Asia. That's largely because of the way that UBM is structured. We've now got more people in China than we have in the UK, so that's been a natural focus for us. But Brazil is a very, very important market. The Concrete show is very successful there, and we are looking at other markets in Latin America as well, and looking for partners, really. And maybe if I could just add something on that, that is, as I've learned, a really important part of the process of geo-adaptation. I mean, and you will know this yourselves, finding the right partner. And it certainly struck me that as the senior guy, I need to invest a huge amount of my time in helping to build up those relationships. I've certainly learnt a lot about, the cultural challenges, for example, which we may come on to talk about, in trying to build up those relationships, respecting people from other nationalities and understanding how they do business, and again, acting with humility so that we are not imposing a Western view of how things should be done on those particularly from emerging markets. It's been a phenomenal learning curve, really, and certainly that idea of being patient, of learning to trust your partner, building respect. It takes a lot of meetings, a lot of dinners, and I've unfortunately had to drink a lot of wine in order to build up those relationships. Someone's got a question there.
Hi, I'm Sonia Graupera from Barcelona, and I wonder how was your reaction when you saw there was a replication of your existing game, whatever show, and if you can carry on any action? I don't think so. And beside this, if this happens, I mean, you are mostly in Asia, in China, you said, but if you would have been in Kiel or in Jakarta, then probably would be a problem, this replication. In China, as you said, it's a huge market and there is room for everyone. So what do you think about all these things?
Yes, I mean, it's a very good question. Our first reaction in China was to reach for our lawyers, but I think we just felt in the end that it just was going to take years, and it took the focus away from building up the event. I think your point about other markets is true, that China is a bit of an exception because it's so large. But one of the things that we've learnt from that is that you need really strong processes, and to ensure that if you hire people, they can't walk away with the data. So our security is now a lot stronger than it was. But I think in the end, you know, if someone wants to basically copy what you're doing, you can't stop them. And I think you know, you mustn't be naive about that. And I think I see that as just one of the problems. I mean, if, for example, in India, we launched one event, not in my sector, and 27 authorities came forward and said that we needed a license from them in order to stage our event. So 27 organisations wanted paying for the right for us to stage the show. You know, so you know, you just get used to that. We had a competitor who launched against us in India, who on the morning of our show parked a huge truck over the entrance so that our exhibitors couldn't get in. You know, and so it's the kind of thing that goes on, and you just have to get smart about it. And I think that's also where we, as an organisation, benefit from having a strong local team, because people from London or possibly even Porto wouldn't know what to do in those situations. And certainly for a while in India, we employed the son of the local police chief, who was a very talented individual anyway, but was also extremely useful in terms of getting things sorted, as you can imagine.